So Dark Magicians just got off the ban list. Both Rod is unlimited and also Nav is unlimited. So a lot of people are playing Dark Magicians, but if you don't have 3 copies of Circle, 3 copies of Nav, you could still play the deck. The deck is actually not that expensive because you can get a copy of Circle and Nav from a structure deck. So even if you're playing 1 copy of each, you can still play the deck by having a Rod to search them. So Dark Magicians, in case you don't know, is a deck that is based around spells or traps. Because Dark Magician itself doesn't really have a lot of things that it could do itself, it's just a vanilla. So it heavily relies on having powerful spells or traps to back it up. Circle helps you banish your opponent's cards, Eternal Soul makes it unaffected by any effects, and Navigation can summon monsters from your deck and also negate your opponent's spells and traps. Let's go over the cards one by one. First, we have Magician of Dark Illusion. This card's name becomes Dark Magician when it's on the field. You can special summon this card during your opponent's turn when you activate a spell or trap effect. And also, if you activate a spell or trap card or effect while this card is on your field, you can revive a Dark Magician monster from your graveyard. This is pretty good because when you activate Circle, you could summon back a Magician and then immediately trigger the effect of Circle. Next is 1 copy of Apprentice Illusion. This is your main summon target from your navigation. When you special summon this card, either by its own effect, by discarding a card, or with navigation, you can search a Dark Magician directly from your deck. And also, if your Dark Spellcaster monster battles, you can send this card from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard, and that monster will gain 2 fast attack. We have 3 copies of Magician's Rod. This is our main starter. When this card is a normal summoned, you could add a spell or trap from your hand that mentions Dark Magician. It's a really good effect. And also, during your opponent's turn, if you activate a spell trap or effect, you could tribute a spellcaster and add this card back to your hand. Sometimes, if you don't need both monsters from navigation, you could just use Rod's Graveyard effect to tribute one of the monsters that navigation summons to add it back to your hand, so next turn you can grab something like a Circle. Next is obviously a Dark Magician. We're playing 3 copies. For spells and traps, we have 1 copy of a Pot of Duality because we are typically not going to special summon anything during our first turn both because of our skill and also because we are mainly going to summon our monsters with our traps, so we don't really need special summons during our first turn, so a Duality will help us grab the cards we need. Next is Dark Magical Circle. When this card is activated, you look at the top 3 cards of your deck and you add a Dark Magician or a spell trap that specifically mentions it. And also, when you normal or special summon a Dark Magician, you banish a card on your opponent's side of the field. Really powerful removal effect. We are playing 1 copy of Econ because we could. We're playing 1 copy of Eye of Timaeus. It sends a Dark Magician to your graveyard to summon any of the future monsters that we're playing. We're playing 1 Navigation, it summons a Dark Magician from your hand, plus a level 7 or lower Dark Spellcaster from your deck. And also, if you control a Dark Magician, you can negate an opponent's face-up spell or trap, and those include non-continuous spells or traps, because when they activate that card, you could chain navigation, and it's basically a spell trap negate, which is pretty good. We have 2 copies of Eternal Soul. It's really good for spamming Dark Magicians and also making them unaffected by anything, but if it leaves the field, all of your monsters get destroyed. We'll have 1 copy of Destined Rivals. It's another search target for our Magician's Rod, and also it negates all effects of your opponent's face-up monsters, which is a pretty good disruption. And finally, we have 3 copies of Dark Light. This is a generic trap that lets us tribute a dark monster with 1500 or more attack, and that includes Rod, because Rod has 1600 attack. And it allows you to destroy all special summoned monsters during the turn it is activated. So it basically wipes your opponent's entire board, which is pretty good. For our extra deck, we are playing 3 future monsters. We're playing the Dark Magician, Dark Cavalry, and Dark Paladin. We aren't going to summon them very often, so I'm not going to go over it too much. As well as the Link monsters, Power Code Talker, plus Luminoid, Code Talker, Imduck, and Pentastag. For a skill, we're playing a trick up the sleeve. This skill allows us to always open with a level 7 or higher Dark Spellcaster. That includes Dark Magician or the Illusion. So, you cannot special summon effect monsters during your first turn, but that's fine because we usually summon stuff for traps anyway. So yeah, the drawback isn't really affecting us a lot. Here is my expensive version. I'm only playing 2 copies of Dark Magician because you're only gonna open 1 in your hand anyway with a skill, so I don't really need to play 3. We're playing 1 copy of the Ghost Destroyer. This card is really good. If you have it, you should play it in your Dark Magician deck. It counters a lot of graveyard-focused decks because it prevents your opponent from banishing cards from either player's graveyard. So it's really really good counter against Orcust. And for the spells and traps, we're playing a lot more. We're playing 3 copies of the Circle, 3 Navigation. We're still playing 2 Eternal Soul because it's a continuous trap and we don't really need that much. And we're also playing some generic staples like Compulse and the Book of Moon. You could play whatever you want. These are just my own preferences. So you could just play whatever, like IDP, Crackdown, Warning Point. You can just play whatever you have and fill in the gaps. For the extra deck, we're playing Xyz monsters like Dark Armed, Big Eye, and Ebon Illusion. And we're playing better Link monsters like Ningusu, Nightmare Phoenix, Security Dragon, our Armistice as our Link 1, as well as our Imduck. And also we are playing the same skill. So obviously if you have played this deck, you know that this deck is really good at setting up your board. They're pretty consistent because you have Rod to search the stuff, and especially because it's now unlimited, the deck becomes even more consistent. The skill lets you guarantee you have a Dark Magician in your hand, so you always have something for your Navigation to summon. Navigation is a pretty strong card, and it's both a way for you to summon your Dark Magician and also a back row negate. Circle is a really annoying card, even though it is a hard once per turn. It banishes a card basically every turn once you have your back row set up. Eternal Soul is also a really annoying card if your opponent doesn't have an out to it, because it makes all of your Dark Magicians unaffected by anything. But yeah, the main disadvantage of playing Dark Magicians is back row removal, because the deck relies so heavily on its back row. Any kind of back row removal will heavily limit what the deck can do, especially if they remove your Circle when it's activated. That stops the search effect of Circle, and you basically are not able to activate another Circle during the same turn because of its hard once per turn. And also, if your opponent removes their Eternal Soul, your entire board gets wiped. And also that kind of disables your Navigation, because Navigation needs to wait a turn to activate, and also it requires you to have a Dark Magician on your field. So yeah, this deck does have quite a bit of weaknesses, because the deck is so reliant on back row, and also Dark Magician doesn't really have that much attack. It only kind of has 2500. So if your opponent has a higher attack monster, you will have to rely on removal effects or using your apprentice to get over them. Anyway, let's have a look at the replays. Okay, for our first game, we're playing against Yu-Gi, and we're going first. When you're playing Dark Magician, you will prefer going first because it is a back row deck and your traps need to wait a turn to activate. We didn't actually get Dark Magician, we got the other level 7 instead, but that's fine. We'll hopefully grab some with Duality, and Rod is probably the best one. We're gonna grab it, normal summon Rod, and we're gonna grab ourselves a copy of Circle. And we'll activate Circle, and hopefully we grab something else, and we find a Navigation. But we don't actually have a way to activate it because we don't have Dark Magician in our hand, but that's fine. We have an Econ, and that's probably enough. Our opponent is actually playing Satellar Knights. I haven't seen this deck for a very long time, but we have Econ, so we're not very afraid of what he's going to do. We're going to activate E-Call. We're not going to steal his monster because we're going to instead summon our Dark Relation from our hand because we activated a spell or trap, and then use the Circles effect to banish our opponent's Xyz monster. During our own turn, we're going to activate the Timaeus to make ourselves a Dark Magician fusion, and now, because we finally have a Dark Magician in our hand, we can activate our Navigation, activate Circles effect again, chain Apprentice, chain Dark Magicians, and our opponent is going to activate a trap to summon back a monster. That's fine. And now with 4 monsters on our field, we're feeling pretty confident. We can just attack and hopefully we can win. Our opponent will attribute their own monster to pop one of our fusions. That's fine, we still have enough for lethal damage. Our next game is against whatever that is, and we're also going first, and that's always good. And this time we actually drew our Dark Magician, but we don't have access to Circle, so we're just gonna set free and pass. Our opponent is playing Red Eyes. He's going to activate Red Eyes Fusion, make Artifian Black Skull Dragon, and he's gonna activate Insight, okay. And he's grabbing another Red Eyes Fusion. Kinda confused on what he's trying to do, but we could still Eternal Soul to summon a Dark Magician and activate Dark Light, triggering the Dark Magician that we summoned to pop his fusion. We're gonna normal summon the Rod that we just drew. That's excellent. He's gonna steal it, but it doesn't negate the effect. So we can still grab ourselves a Circle, and the Circle will grab ourselves another copy of Dark Magician. We're gonna Eternal Soul back the Dark Magician in our graveyard, banish our opponent's Crackdown, and grab ourselves our Rod back. And now with enough damage, we can go for lethal. And here we're actually playing the expensive version of the deck. Unfortunately, we were going second, and our opponent is playing the new character. I wonder what he's playing. He is playing Joker straight. Okay, that's interesting. I do not expect him to play Joker not using the Yugi skill, but let's see what he can do. Because he activated the Joker straight, he can't actually summon anything other than the Joker Knights, so he can't go into any extra deck monsters. We have Rod, that's amazing. We can grab ourselves a Circle, and the Circle will grab ourselves another Nav, that's fine. We're gonna set 2, attack with our opponent's Queen's Knight. Our opponent is gonna normal summon something, and he's gonna make Exciton Knight, okay. It's a quick effect, so we can't really chain compos to bounce it back before it activates the effect, so unfortunately our entire board is going to be popped. There's not really a lot we can do about that. I do not expect him to make that. If I knew he had that card, I might have just removed the level 4 monster from his field, but thankfully, the turn when it activates its effect, he can't deal battle damage to me. So he's forced to end on 3 monsters. During our turn, we're going to set 2. He's going to activate Phase Card Fusion and make the big fusion monster. We're going to try to Book of Moon it. He has a spell in his hand, so he's just going to negate our Book of Moon. We're going to take a lot of damage, but that's fine. We still have Magician's Navigation. We're summon 2, and activate Rod effect to tribute our Apprentice to grab back the Rod. Our opponent is going to get back the spell for next turn. And we drew a Compulse. That's probably our out to our opponent's massive fusion monster. We're gonna beat over our opponent's Queen's Knight, and we just hope they don't have a trap in their hand. And they don't. We win. We can activate a Circle now that he can't negate our Circle. And that will be it. He is going to scoop.